disgusting, disturbing. An American imam sobs with jealousy over not being martyred in Gaza. In an emotionally charged sermon at the Islamic Institute of Torrance on December 2nd, 2023, Imam Mohammad S. Ahmed of Torrance, California, passionately expressed his distress and envy over not being chosen as martyrs like those in Gaza. He poignantly asked, quote, "What have we done to not be martyrs for the sake of Allah? What have we done wrong to not be blessed like the people in Palestine have been blessed?" These questions underscore his deep longing for the perceived spiritual status of Palestinian martyrs. Ahmed further condemned the Israelis, saying, quote, "The children of Israel have a long history of cowardice, a long history of wickedness, a long history of murder and occupation and all kinds of things that Allah has punished them for." His sermon also highlighted the unique position of Palestinians in his views as he reflected, quote, "They were chosen for this. This is not our choice. It is the choice of Allah. He chose them to be the best people living on the face of the earth nowadays." Ahmed's words vividly convey a mix of religious devotion, political opinion, and intense personal anguish. So let's go. We have the video, so let's watch the video.
Oh,
And
we do?
yes, we do.
Okay,
It's down below. And it's only 2 minutes out of a 30-minute but I watched the whole sermon, so I can give more context.
Sweet. Let me
So
just
bring forth
full screen
the
it.
video.
All right. I hope we have audio here now. Hold on.
Whatever is happening nowadays in Palestine is not something that is new or just recent. This is the children of Israel have a long history of cowardice and a long history of wickedness and a long history of murder and occupation and all kinds of things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has punished them for. How come Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose those Palestinian Muslims to be closer to Him? What have we done wrong to be so far from Allah? What have we done wrong to not be martyrs for the sake of Allah? What have we done wrong to not be blessed like the people in Palestine have been?
By the way, the audio problem is from them. You don't need to change your settings. They have audio problems.
Blessed. What have we done wrong for our mothers to not be like the mothers of the martyrs in Palestine? What have we done wrong for our men not to be among those resisting in Palestine? What have we done wrong for us not to be chosen for that perfect picture that the Palestinians have drawn today? That perfect picture of faith in Allah. That perfect picture of strength. That perfect picture of belief. They were chosen for this picture.
God.
They were chosen for this. It's not our choice. This is the choice of Allah, and He chose them to be the best people living on the face of the earth nowadays. He did not choose us.
You know when we say this is a death cult? When we say this is a death cult, it's because it's a death cult.
I have so much to say. So I watched this whole 30-minute sermon, like literally before the show, because I wanted it to be fresh in my mind. Because I thought it's fair if we are making, because it's my framing of this where I say he's sobbing with jealousy, right? That is our framing. And I thought if we're making that framing, I must go watch the whole sermon so that we can see the whole thing in context, not just 2 minutes, and convey things, charitably in how they were actually presented. That's fair, right? So I went and watched the whole sermon right before the show because I wanted it to be fresh. And let me give an overview of what he talks about. So he starts off and he's explaining the history of the children of Israel in his understanding and in his mind. And, he goes back to Abraham. Abraham had two sons, Ishmael and Isaac. Ishmael became the father of the Arabs. Isaac became the father of Jacob, who had 12 sons, and they became the 12 tribes of Israel, right? And he walks through the entire history from the Islamic perspective. And the funniest thing is to me that sorry. In the way that he describes it, he's actually acknowledging that the Jews were in the land of Israel first when he's walking
Mm.
through the history. In several
Yeah, I
instances.
mean the Quran does that. The Quran
Exactly.
does that.
Exactly. I'm
Yeah.
like, so you're acknowledging that the Jews are the people of this land this entire time.
The
And
Islamic narrative? Do you want? Well, there's okay. Do you want me to tell you the? I will tell you after you're done what the Islamic
I know
narrative is
from a
about.
Muslim perspective, that's not relevant.
Right,
I know that from a
right,
Muslim
right.
perspective, that's not relevant, right? But it's just interesting to see that and hear that and notice it
Right.
in the midst of a lot of the rhetoric happening today, right? From a leftist
Mhm.
perspective. Um, so anyways, and he goes through to talk about the prophets of the children of Israel because uh yeah, angry keyboard warrior is a good point, but aren't many Muslim prophets children of Israel? Yes. There are a lot of prophets in Islam that are acknowledged to be Jews. And he explains that they are basically the only good ones. And that the rest of them break their way with Allah's covenant and they are cowardly and have cowardless and they stray from his way and they don't do what Allah wants and they broke their covenant and all this stuff. And it's the way he describes it, and he just goes on to say over and over again how cowardly they are and how they don't fight people unless they're more powerful than them and all this stuff. And it was just so funny because I'm like, did you not hear about like Jewish resistance during World War II? Like, have you not heard about like the Nazi hunters? Like, this is just so not true. Um, and so I watched the whole thing, and he's really talking about like the he sees Palestinians as the perfect example of faith because he
Mm.
says that they are not in the hands of the Russians who are non-believers. They're not in the hands of the Egyptians who, like Sisi has abandoned them. They are in the hands only of Allah, and that they present a perfect picture of faith in all this stuff. And it's so disturbing. And here's why I find it disturbing. Because when we see all of these Muslim preachers over and over again talking about how the Palestinians are victorious, whether they are alive or dead, because they are fighting for the sake of Allah, you are treating them as already dead. Because, Armin, I sent you a video that you haven't reviewed on the channel yet, and it was called Whispers from Gaza, right? And it's people in Gaza
Mm.
talking about their experiences and stuff. And there was, I think it was a woman talking about how they are raised to think about death constantly. They are raised to think about being martyred constantly. And this is the highest thing that they can attain. But when you live with the highest thing being that you can attain is death and being killed, you live as if you're already dead. And in that story, that woman talks about how that has like changed the affect of the people when they're living and being treated as if they're already dead. And to watch the Muslim community around the world treat them as the most victorious in death, the subtext, and this is going to sound harsh, but the subtext of what they are saying is that the best Palestinian is a Palestinian who was murdered. Is that not the conclusion, the logical conclusion of their rhetoric? That this is the best they can attain. This is the best that they can hope for. And it's so crazy to me to think that these are the people who say that they're for the defense of this population, where the logical conclusion of their rhetoric is that the best Palestinian is a dead Palestinian. And YouTube, this is in the opposite of my belief, right? I'm trying to express the consequence of a different belief, right? And it's so twisted, and I'm so disturbed. And then this man is sobbing because he's saying, what did we do wrong to not have our mothers be like the mothers of the martyrs in Palestine? Think about the suffering of those children, of those mothers. Unbearable suffering, incomprehensible suffering. And saying, what did I do wrong to not put my mother through that suffering? It boggles my mind. But Armin, yeah, what was your reaction to this? Because there's so many different ways you can approach like just this clip.
Yeah. So first of all, this is another reminder for that we are actually pro-Palestinian, and the people who act like they're pro-Palestinian, they are actually anti-Palestinian. The best people in defense of Palestine are the people who are also defending Israel. The people who are anti-Israeli are the worst people for Palestine, because they're using the suffering of the Palestinians. So the people who are anti-Israeli, most of them, again, I don't want to generalize, either they're Islamically looking at this, or looking at this from a secular woke leftist perspective, which is again using the suffering of minority people as a way to make yourself relevant. But from the Islamic perspective, these are martyrs. These are, as this man said, the most ideal situation any person could be. At the end of the day, these are the people who say free Palestine from the river to the sea and all that crap. They are encouraging the suffering and the death of Palestinian, and they don't hide it. They're saying it openly himself. He says this is the best situation for them. So imagine the standards that we are
It's a
advocating, and the
blessing.
standards. Yeah, it's a blessing. They call it a blessing. So imagine the standards and the goals and the methods that we have when it comes to secular humanism. What is the goal of secular humanism? The goal of secular humanism is to increase human well-being, prosperity, less misery, less war, less suffering. But what do you think you get out if you are aiming for increasing well-being? What do you think you get? You get more well-being. So by that logic, what do you think you get more of if your ideology celebrates death? What do you think it would be the outcome of that, if that's what you want, if that's what you're aiming for? So when you are feeling sorry for Palestinians, as you should be, remember whose ideology is encouraging this suffering. It's the ideology that is asking for more death, for more destruction. So don't believe these people when they act like they're pro-Palestinian. They're not. Most of the people that are actively and effectively pro-Palestinian are the people who are also defending Israel. And again, this is something that people still don't understand. As you see in the live chat, somebody saying, but you guys are anti-Palestinian. Again, this is insane. Every time people think that because we defend Israel, we're anti-Palestinian. No, we're not anti-Palestinian. We are pro-Palestine, and that's why we're anti-Hamas. Regarding the mindset, the Islamic virus, that what it teaches about why the Jews, God it's not just according to Judaism that God promised this land to the Jews. It's also according to Islam as well. God did promise this land to the Jews to show how much they suck. Right? Because God promised this land to the children. Again, not my words, YouTube. By the way, guys, mentioning YouTube, we've just been demonetized, okay, because we're using naughty words. So please, I
God
see
damn
some
it.
super chats coming in. Yeah, so we already been demonetized because of the things that we're saying. We will read the super chats, but please keep the super chats coming, because these streams we will not be able to do what we're doing given that YouTube keep demonetizing. Like, we're not even 20 minutes into the show and we're already demonetized. So please, you can see it on the screen. So even if you can't use super chats, at least like the stream, because when you get demonetized, you also get deprioritized. And if you like the stream, that will help within the algorithm for this show to be shown to more people. So please go ahead and do that. I'm going to request a review, but again, as I mentioned, every time when I request a review, it takes a couple of days for the reviews to get, go through, and by that time you're already, most of the audience for the live stream is already over, right? So there's that. So what is the Islamic narrative? The Islamic narrative is that God promised this land, to the children of Abraham. And as Susanna mentioned, the children of Abraham include the Jews and the Arabs, right? Both Jews and Arabs are children of Abraham. But one of these groups are worthy and the other one is unworthy. So God gave it to the Jews first to show that they're unworthy, to show that when God makes a pact with them, they will fail to keep their end, that they will not follow God's commands. And once God showed their failure, then it will be the actual worthy people's turn to take over this land, the good children of Abraham. So that's the one of the common narratives that you hear. So just wanted to explain that why the first part doesn't mean that it's theirs now. It was theirs back then, but not now. Yeah.
And it was so funny because he talks about how the God took the covenant from the Jews and then gave it to the Arabs because they were more worthy. And then that's why he made the language of his final message in Arabic. And then, as an example of the Jews' cowardice, he said basically when the covenant was given to the Arabs and they began to preach Islam and spread their narrative, then that's when the Arabs came to the land of Israel, they as an example of his cowardice, he basically says that, oh, because they fled and because they dispersed across the world, that's an example of their cowardice. I'm like, that sounds like an example of people dealing with fleeing and invading force. And they were cleansed, so they had to leave. Like, I don't know. It's just like, you know what that sounds like? That sounds like people who were fleeing ethnic cleansing.
Right.
um, yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Unicorn is saying displacement. So it's just so funny to see how where the secular leftists will completely deny this. The Muslim narrative is like, oh yeah, no, but that's actually proof of why they're cowards. It's insane. And the other thing that I was thinking about, Armin, is that if it is believed that Allah is all knowing, all powerful, he controls everything, he already decided everything. And nothing is beyond his knowing or his control. And then you are also praising the Palestinians for being the perfect picture of faith. If other people are praising the Palestinians for being victorious in their death, how can you really hate the Israelis? Are they not just doing what God's will?
No,
Are they
because
also not a tool that is
no,
allowing
no.
Palestinians to reach this status? Like, I don't get that mentality.
No, because if in that case you should also be celebrating the devil, Susie,
Uh-huh.
because technically, like, because the devil himself is also technically helping people achieve heaven and stuff like that, which is, it's religious nonsense. So you're trying to make sense of religious nonsense. So that's where your problem is. By the way,
Yeah.
Chris is asking a question. Do Arabs actually come from Abraham, or is that made up like the rest of the beliefs? It's made up. There's no. I mean, there is no Abraham. Nobody came from Abraham. Arabs didn't come from Abraham. The Jews didn't also come from Abraham. Nobody came from Abraham. It's a made up story. All right. Okay. Do you want to? Oh, we start. You start a couple of comments, and we also have some super chats. Do you want to address them?
Oh, and by the way, wait, this person, is this name Mohammed? Yeah, good to see leftists. I assume he's referring to us. We are not leftists, we're liberals. Good to see leftists in these days and age supporting the ultra right wing government in Israel. We actually don't. We actually
Yeah,
don't.
you're an idiot. We
And
support you.
speaking
It's
of, they
so.
just suffered a huge defeat in the Israeli Supreme Court.
I mean, I don't know if he meant this, but if he did, how dumb do you have to be to think that supporting a country means that you also support their government right at this moment? It's so easy to understand these things. Just like try to use two of your neurons at least. I, for example, support Iran. I don't support the Islamic Republic, which is the current government. I support Israel. I don't support the current government. I don't support the Likud party. Easy. I support United States of America. I don't support Trump when he was the president. It's so easy to understand these things. How is it so hard for you to get that?
Or we want Palestinian civilians to have a decent, prosperous quality of life. We
Right.
don't support Hamas.
Exactly. I support Palestinians. I don't support Hamas. Oh, shocking.
Okay, so we had a bunch of super chats and a bunch of people became members after our recent
Yeah.
demonetization. So thank you guys.
Thank
Joey
you, guys.
Joe gave a $10 super sticker. Thank you, Joey.
Thank you.
And Gasian American gave a super chat saying crazy the things memes can do to a homonym. Yes, exactly. Yep, it can take us pretty deep. Darko also gave 5 memberships to people. Thank you so much, Darko.
Thank
And
you, guys.
so did Random String of Characters. And also, Jean just became a new member. Welcome to Satan's Minions. And so did Clifford. Again, welcome to Satan's Minions. And Kenny gave a €10 super sticker or super chat, just with no comment. Thank you, Kenny.
Guys, these really do help because as you just saw, we've been demonetized. So this stream has already been demonetized, and the only reason why we can continue doing these streams as often as we do, because it takes a lot of time for us to do these streams, is because you guys constantly make it not important that we're getting demonetized. You guys are covering the loss revenue from it. Which, speaking of, we got shekels. Susie, we got Zionist money. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
that.
Clifford. Thank you.
Right.
And this person is saying Palestinians are Hamas. That's not true. That's not true. There are more Palestinians than we know who have suffered great consequence and loss of life, and suffering because they stand up to these terrorists.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you really, people really can't comprehend like the cost and the risk that people face within these communities for speaking out. And we don't see it because of media clampdown, and also people face great threat for doing so. So I completely reject that. That's racist. Fuck off.
And also, we have done a lot of streams showing you the different opinions from people in Gaza, right? So people in Gaza are not a monolith.
Zayd is like, bitch, I'm Palestinian.
Yes, exactly. Zayd is Palestinian.
Zayd is like my little brother.
Yes, but okay. Sorgo is saying wasn't notified at all. If you're referring to the stream starting and you're not getting notified, one thing you could do, guys, when you hit the bell notification, please make sure you hit the bell notification, because the subscribing is not enough. But when you hit the bell notification, also make sure you select the all option, because only by selecting the all option are you going to get, notified most of the time, at least when we go live. Oh, we got more super chats and memberships coming in.
Ooh, Selva Kumar just
Thank-
gifted people 5 memberships. So, guys, if you just received one of these new memberships, make sure to use your new emojis in the live chat.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
and Clifford also gave us another super chat saying Mossad funding due to the demonetization. Thank you, Clifford. And also, if you
Thank
know
you.
anyone at Mossad, can you please put in a word for Armin? Because Armin is
Yes, I've
still
been trying.
unironically, legitimately trying to work for Mossad.
This is not a joke, guys.
It's not a joke.
I'm available. I'm available for hire. So please put me in touch. Thank you. Yes.
He can help against on the Iranian front.
For free. Not even a job. I will volunteer. You don't even need to pay me. Okay? You don't even need to pay me.
Ziv gave a super chat. Thank you, saying, I believe that what he meant to say is they're also being force fed with Hamas propaganda. And as you said, those who do not agree are being hunted. Well, I don't believe that that's what he meant because he said Palestinians are Hamas. So I appreciate your nuance here. And I think we could agree that this definitely happens. That's not what that person said. But
Yes.
I appreciate the super chat and you being charitable.
Thank you. And Roy is saying that he's my agent. So I didn't know Roy is my agent in Mossad. So we will have a talk about this, Roy. Later.
Roy, but you just you're exposing yourself. You're exposing the trade
No,
craft
because
in front of the whole live chat, man.
No, because people are gonna think it's a joke, so it's fine.
There's layers
and
here.
People are gonna think this is a joke. Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.